Hello, everyone, and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Hammond. We're live in the nation's capital of Washington, D.C., and over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the U.S. and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, here's a look at the latest headlines. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu slams leaders who recognize Palestinian statehood and vows to speak the truth of Israel, its citizens, and its soldiers as he travels to the U.S. to address the UN General Assembly. China's Commerce Ministry says that the United States should take steps to remove unreasonable tariffs on Beijing and create conditions to expand two-way trade. Thai Foreign Minister calls for both Thailand and Cambodia to reduce military presence along their shared border, saying his top priority is to restore peace between the two nations. More than 1,000 children in Indonesia's West Java fall ill from school lunches, marking the latest outbreak and the latest setback for the president's multi-billion-dollar free meals program. And South Korea's unification minister says the Federation of American Scientists says that North Korea currently holds up to 2 tons of highly enriched uranium that's used for making nuclear warheads. A week after Russia's foreign ministry said he hoped U.S. officials attending the recent Zabad war games saw that Russia posed no threat to NATO as the alliance launches one of its most significant maritime exercises of the year. Neptune Strike 25-3 began on September 22nd and will run until September 26th, bringing together over 10,000 sailors, soldiers, and Marines from 13 allied nations. The exercise spans the Mediterranean, Adriatic, North, and Baltic Seas and is designed to test NATO's ability to integrate advanced naval strike capabilities while securing key waterways and strategic choke points. The U.S. Navy's aircraft carrier USS Gerald R, which is the largest in the world, is at the forefront of the operation. It's sailing in formation with allied warships including Danish, French, and other U.S. vessels. The exercise also involves a Turkish amphibious assault ship, an Italian landing ship, and a U.S. command and control ship.
It's very important for us to work with our allies in order to improve our interoperability with the allies nations. On the other hand, it's very important for us to show our capacities and capabilities as well.
Now, throughout the 5-day exercise, the participating forces are conducting a variety of operations, which include carrier-based air sorties, amphibious landings in southern Italy, submarine patrol surface war exercises, and mass casualty drills. The U.S. Carrier Strike Group takes center stage in the North Sea. Other multinational task groups are operating in the Baltic and Mediterranean, showcasing NATO's reach as well as their flexibility.
The aim and the objective of this exercise is to demonstrate the NATO's steadfast and posture. So therefore, we are making contribution to these objectives.
The exercise comes amid rising tensions with Russia following repeated air and drone incursions into Allied airspace. EU's foreign policy chief leaders from Poland, Denmark, Norway, and Estonia all issued warnings to Russia amid airspace violations.
Russia bears full responsibility for these actions, which are escalatory, risk miscalculation, and endanger lives. They must stop. Russia should be in no doubt. NATO and allies will employ, in accordance with international law, all necessary military and non-military tools to defend ourselves and deter all threats from all directions.
As the ships continue their maneuvers and fighter jets take to the skies of the Mediterranean and North Sea, all eyes are on the alliance's ability to maintain a seamless multinational operation amid continued Russian threats. And now to the latest developments from the UN. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has issued a warning to global leaders, urging them to intervene before Russia leads the world into what he calls the most destructive arms race in human history. Speaking at the United Nations General Assembly in New York, the Ukrainian president highlighted the dangers posed by the combination of drone technology and artificial intelligence, saying that if left unchecked, the consequences could be catastrophic not only for Ukraine, but for the broader world.
We are now living through the most destructive arms race in human history, because this time includes artificial intelligence. And if there are no real security guarantees except friends and weapons, and if the world can't respond even to old threats, and if there is no strong platform for international security, will there be any place left on Earth that's still safe for people? We need global rules now for how AI can be used in weapons, and this is just as urgent as preventing the spread of nuclear weapons.
Zelensky explained that modern drones have fundamentally changed the nature of warfare. Areas of destruction that once required large-scale strikes can now be created with small, inexpensive, unmanned aircraft capable of targeting civilians, infrastructure, and military assets across vast distances.
The 21st century isn't much different from the past. If a nation wants peace, it still has to work on weapons. It's sick, but that's the reality. Not international law, not cooperation. Weapons decide who survives.
He stressed that acting now to stop the war is far less costly than preparing cities, ports, and critical infrastructure for future attacks.
The facts are simple. Stopping this war now, and with it, the global arms race, is cheaper than building underground kindergartens or massive bunkers for critical infrastructure later. Stopping Putin now is cheaper than trying to protect every port and every ship from terrorists with sea drones. Stopping Russia now is cheaper than wondering who will be the first to create a simple drone carrying a nuclear warhead. So we must use everything we have together to force the aggressor to stop.
He warned that Russian President Vladimir Putin's ambitions extend well beyond Ukraine's borders, citing recent reports of Russian drone incursions in Europe, adding that these actions illustrate Moscow's willingness to expand the conflict. The Ukrainian president also pointed to the strategic importance of Moldova, where Russian influence appears to be growing. Now, according to Moldova's prime minister, Moscow is reportedly spending hundreds of millions of euros to manipulate the country's parliamentary elections.
Russia is spending hundreds of millions of euros to buy votes in the September 28th elections. But our state will not allow vote stealing to become an electoral coup.
Zelensky's UN remarks come after he hailed President Donald Trump's U-turn on Ukraine and called him a game changer. He said President Trump can change the course of Russia's war in Ukraine.
He's a game changer by himself if he will be sure in Ukraine. And I think that he is more close now to this situation, and that's why and between us, only Trump can. For today, we know some not too much players in the world who can be game changers, but he's the most closer to this.
Earlier, President Trump described Russia's economy as a paper tiger and said that the support of Europe and NATO, Ukraine could potentially reclaim all territory lost since the start of the invasion in 2022. Zelensky said he believes Trump could also influence other world leaders, including China, to adopt a stronger stance against Moscow's aggression. Meanwhile, the United States has signaled a firmer position toward Russia as U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio called on Moscow to halt the killings in Ukraine and urge meaningful steps towards a resolution. And once again, President Zelensky has expressed his willingness to meet President Putin anywhere except Moscow, with Russian officials proposing Istanbul as a possible meeting location. However, the Kremlin suggested that a meeting without careful preparation would be little more than a PR exercise, unlikely to produce real results. As of now, the world watches closely to see whether decisive action can prevent an escalation in the Russia-Ukraine war that's been waging for more than 3 years. And now to Dallas, Texas, where a deadly shooting at an immigration and customs enforcement field office has sparked renewed debate over political violence and law enforcement safety. President Donald Trump condemned the attack, framing it as part of a broader pattern of left-wing extremism. Speaking on Truth Social, President Trump said the shooter, who killed at least one detainee and injured 2 others, had written anti-ice on his shell casings. Calling the incident despicable, he placed blame on what he described as the radical left, arguing that Democrats' rhetoric against law enforcement and ICE officers fuels violence even though the victims were detainees themselves.
ICE officers are just trying to do their jobs and remove the worst of the worst criminals out of our country. But they are facing an unprecedented increase in threats, violence, and attacks by deranged radical leftists.
Invoking the recent assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, President Trump warned that radical left terrorists pose a grave threat to law enforcement and promised action, announcing that he would sign an executive order to dismantle these domestic terrorism networks this week.
I am calling on all Democrats to stop this rhetoric against ICE and America's law enforcement. Right now, the Trump administration is fully committed to backing law enforcement, strong borders, securing our homeland, deporting violent illegal criminals, and fully rooting out the left-wing domestic terrorism that is terrorizing our country.
Vice President J.D. Vance also weighed in, drawing a parallel between the Dallas attack and Kirk's killing. Speaking in Concord, North Carolina, Vance described both incidents as quote-unquote disgusting examples of politically motivated violence. He said the Dallas shooter was politically motivated to go after law enforcement and called for an end to the rhetorical assault on those enforcing U.S. border laws, urging both Democrats and Republicans to honor and protect officers.
They were politically motivated to go after law enforcement. They were politically motivated to go after people who are enforcing our border. And I think that is the most disgusting thing. The very people who keep us safe ought to be honored and protected and praised by Democrats and Republicans alike. It is time to stop the rhetorical assault on law enforcement. Because here's what happened.
The Dallas shooting unfolded early on Wednesday when a gunman identified as 29-year-old Joshua John opened fire on the ICE field office from a nearby rooftop. Authorities say the shooter fired indiscriminately, including at a van in the building's secured entryway, killing a detainee and critically wounding two others before taking his own life. The FBI and Department of Homeland Security officials described the attacks as targeted, with preliminary evidence suggesting an ideological motive.
I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence. It is unfortunately just the most recent example we've seen of targeted violence, to include here in North Texas, where back on July 4th,
FBI Director Kash Patel shared an image of the suspect's unused ammunition, noting that one shell casing had anti-ice inscribed on it. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said the shooter appeared to be targeting ICE officers specifically. Meanwhile, the suspect's older brother told reporters that he was unaware of any political motive on his brother's part. The attack in Dallas is the third shooting at a Department of Homeland Security facility in Texas just this year. And President Trump and his administration have used the Dallas shooting along with Kirk's killing to highlight what they describe as escalating threats from left-wing political extremism, with no concrete evidence, however, to bolster such claims. Still, as investigations continue, the Dallas community and law enforcement officials are left grappling with the human cost of politically motivated attacks, while the national debate intensifies over the language and actions that may fuel such violence. President Donald Trump has unveiled a presidential walk of fame along the Rose Garden colonnade at the White House, displaying portraits of every past president in gleaming gold frames except for Joe Biden, whose spot features an auto pen signing his name. The move turns a simple walkway into a sharp statement, merging history with a hint of satire as Trump brands his predecessor's term the auto pen presidency. It's trolling cast in black and white, satire sealed in a golden frame, and it's a message. In the house that writes history, Trump has written Biden out with a stroke that isn't even his. Our next report has more.
The White House has seen many portraits: founding fathers, civil rights icons, world leaders. But now, one of its most iconic walls carries something else. Not a president, not a statesman, not even a human being, but a pen. The White House has a new wall of fame located in the colonnade that runs along the Rose Garden. A line of black and white portraits: Carter, Reagan, Clinton, Bush, Obama, even Trump himself. Every U.S. president is framed in gold. Every president except one, Joe Biden. His spot is filled not by his face, but by a pen, an auto pen, Trump's jab at his predecessor. The auto pen is no ordinary pen. It's a machine. It replicates a signature. It signs without a hand. And Trump has turned it into art. It is mockery made permanent. A political punchline hanging on sacred walls. And Trump knows exactly what he's doing. He has long branded Biden's tenure the auto pen presidency without evidence. A presidency, he claims, signed by machine. He accuses Democratic aides of hiding Biden's health decline. He suggests documents stamped with that signature may not even be valid. And now, he's turned the accusation into decor, a taunt, framed in gold for every visiting guest to see. But Biden has defended himself. He insists he made every decision personally, every pardon, every commutation. The auto pen, he says, was nothing more than a tool. The decisions were mine, Biden told the New York Times. Of course, the auto pen is not scandalous. It has been used by presidents for decades, both Republicans and Democrats, for ceremonial letters, for mass mailings. Even Ronald Reagan used it, but none of them turned it into political art. Trump has even gone further. He even ordered an investigation into Biden's use of the device. His allies are now combing through paperwork, searching for proof of what they call a cover-up. And that's the point. This isn't a portrait, it's a punchline. Guests at the next state dinner will see the portrait that hangs on the walls of the White House without a face. They'll walk past Trump's new patio, past Trump's portraits, and they'll stop at Biden's absence. For Trump, the auto pen portrait is just another layer of his redesign. He's gilded the Oval Office, rebuilt the Rose Garden patio, hung portraits of himself across the walls. And now, in his words, he has put up a picture of the auto pen. This is no simple renovation. It is theater. History rewritten in gold trim and marble floors. So the colonnade now tells two stories. One of presidents honored in gold frames, and another of a predecessor reduced to a pen. It's a permanent reminder etched on the White House walls that in politics, even portraits can wound.
And finally, everyone brace yourself, because that innocent-looking can of soda sitting on your desk might be doing more than just adding some extra sugar to your day. New research says it could also be tinkering with your brain chemistry, and not in a good way. Forget cavities or the occasional sugar rush. Scientists now believe your fizzy drink habit could be linked to depression. So if you thought your cola was just guilty of empty calories, think again. Here's more with the story.
If you thought the worst thing about soft drinks was a little tooth decay or the occasional burp, think again. New research from Germany suggests your daily cola habit might be doing more than just expanding your waistline. It could also be fizzing up your risk of depression. Yes, you heard that right. According to scientists at University Hospital Frankfurt, popping open a can of soda could also be popping open the door to mental health struggles. And the culprit, a troublemaking gut bacterium called Eggerichia. The study, published in JAMA Psychiatry, analyzed 405 people with major depressive disorder and 527 without it. Researchers found that women who consumed soft drinks had higher levels of Eggerichia. This bacterium has been found in the human gastrointestinal tract, female reproductive system, and male prostate. In women, soft drink consumption predicted both diagnosis and severity of depression symptoms, with Eggerichia mediating up to 5% of the effect. This bacterium is already known for stirring up inflammation and reducing levels of serotonin's building block, tryptophan. Translation: less happy juice for your brain. Meanwhile, men seem to dodge the soda depression bullet, at least for now. Scientists speculate hormones may be behind this gender gap. And before you accuse the researchers of being soda snobs, remember that about 2/3 of participants were women. So the data had some heavy estrogen representation. Health experts warn that the sugar and artificial sweeteners in soda disrupt gut microbiomes. It kills off good bacteria, fosters inflammation, and weakens the gut barriers. And now it seems it's also a player in how we feel mentally. According to World Population Review, the world's soda capitals might not be where you'd expect. Topping the fizzy charts is Hungary, where people guzzle a staggering 310 liters of soda per person every year. That's practically a bathtub of cola. Next is Belgium at 272 liters per capita, proving Belgians don't just love their waffles. Argentina takes third with about 155 liters annually, followed closely by the United States at 154 liters. A drop in the cup for a country that invented the supersize. Chile rounds out the top 5 at 141 liters per head. That's a whole lot of bubbles, sugar, and maybe regret. So what's the fix? Researchers say more studies are needed, but they hint at the obvious. Ditching soda for water might save both your gut and your mood. And public health advocates are cheering on soda taxes, ad bans, and even school restrictions to keep the next generation from drowning in sugar. Bottom line, your soda may be sweet, but the science suggests the aftermath is anything but depression, inflammation, hormone mischief, and an army of Eggerthella in your gut. That's quite the price tag for a fizzy drink. So next time you reach for a cola, remember, happiness might actually be as simple as staying hydrated with water.
And from all of us here at Firstpost America, we thank you all for tuning in. We hope you have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow. Thanks everyone for watching.